Democratic-backed Judge Susan Crawford won a seat on the Wisconsin Supreme Court, dealing a setback to Donald Trump and Elon Musk, who had heavily backed her opponent. The race was the first major electoral test for Trump post-presidency, with Musk investing millions in the Republican challenger. Crawford's win highlights the ongoing battle for judicial control in the state. Meanwhile, Democrats outperformed expectations in Florida special elections, narrowing margins in deep red districts despite GOP victories. Trump's endorsements helped Republicans win, but signs of shifting voter trends could pose challenges in the midterms. Republican Randy Fine won in Daytona Beach by 14 points from a 33-point GOP victory in November, while in Pensacola, Jimmy Patronis won by nearly 15 points compared to a 32-point margin last fall. We are now joined by Jim Rice, Professor of International Law, to discuss this further. Jim, thank you very much for joining us. Susan Crawford's win has been seen as a pushback against Elon Musk and Donald Trump, but do you think this was really more about Wisconsin's own politics?
Okay, well, thanks very much for having me on. It's a great opportunity for me to talk to your listeners about Wisconsin, which is a place that I was born in and lived there for, most of my childhood. This is an important race to try and answer your question. This is an important race because the Supreme Court of Wisconsin has 7 justices, and so Susan Crawford's seat on the Supreme Court is the 7th, and she, being to the left of center, is going to be the deciding vote in several significant court cases which would be pending before the Wisconsin Supreme Court, including issues regarding abortion, as well as the attempts by the Republican Party to reapportion representative seats, which would throw the House of Representatives more completely in the direction of the Republicans. So it's really significant that Susan Crawford was elected.
Jim, why do you think Musk is spending so much money in a local poll in Wisconsin?
That's a great question. Thanks for that. Well, as everyone knows, Elon Musk is the richest person in the world, and he is now essentially a shadow president, an unelected shadow president or co-president with Donald Trump, and he and his unofficial organization, Doge, has been essentially wrecking the federal government agencies. And one of the reasons that he's trying to interfere in Wisconsin politics is because he knows that he knew that if he were able to sway the race to the Republican candidate, that it would make it easier for the Republican Party to retain the House of Representatives in 2 years' time.
Republicans have just won 2 big House races in Florida. So when you look at that alongside Crawford's win, what does that tell you about how Americans are feeling about Trump and Musk right now?
Those are good questions about the Florida races as well. There were 2 representative races that were in play yesterday. And as you say, both of them went to the Republican candidates. However, the margin of their victories was cut in half. And for Republican political strategists, they must be extremely worried right now because those were very, very safe seats for the Republicans. And they must be thinking that for seats in other parts of the country that were elected on a narrower margin, they'd be at great risk right now.
Jim, this actually ended up being the priciest judicial race in US history, with loads of outside money involved. Are we seeing local court elections becoming too national and too political?
Well, I would certainly agree that there's too much money involved in these local elections as well as in national elections. And this has had very bad effects on American politics ever since the case of Citizens United was decided to make it unlimited donations. And I think that there needs to be electoral funding reform.
Schimel conceded the race quite respectively, which felt some different to how some recent losses have played out for the Republicans. Could this be a sign that some on the right are moving away from election denialism?
No. For those people who voted for Trump, the so-called diehard MAGA people, from what I understand, they're still deeply immersed in a culture of election denialism. And the reason for that is because Donald Trump himself buys into this big lie that, in fact, he won the 2020 election. So I would say no.
After the result, Musk called it the long con of the left, but pointed out to voter ID laws being passed as a win. What do you make of that response? Is it all about saving face, or part of a bigger strategy?
Well, in terms of voter ID, I think that nearly everyone, nearly all of the voters believe in secure elections. They want to know that their vote will be counted, and that the elections will have integrity and will be honest. And so if voter ID is one method to ensure that this is the case, then I'm sure voters would approve of this. However, to some extent, voter ID can be used as a way of abuse in terms of suppressing votes. And in addition to that, none of this stops what you just referred to as election denialism.
Jim Rice, thank you very much for joining us. Well, that's all we have time for. We will continue to bring you more news updates from across the world. Thank you. Hello and welcome. I am Tom.